Kenyaman and Demet. Demet sends a message to her former love with a song. The spark that refuses to die just lit up the celebrity sphere again, and it's all playing out between Demet Özdemir and Kenyaman. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Before we dive into everything, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a twist in this story that has practically set the internet on fire. Here's what has everyone talking. Demet Özdemir's late-night social media posts and a carefully chosen song have stirred up whispers that she's speaking straight to her ex, Kenyaman. Pair that with Demet's unexpected moment at the airport where she told the press, "It's very new," and the conversation instantly turned from quiet speculation to a full-blown frenzy. Could this be a sign of reconciliation? A new beginning layered over an old story? Or is Demet simply closing a chapter with a melody that says what words won't? Let's rewind the reel. For ages, the Turkish entertainment world has looked to Demet Özdemir's love life for clues and headlines, but this time the clues didn't come in words, at least not at first. They arrived as a song attached to a smoky photo on her story, a few lyrics that hinted at a bruise that still aches, and a caption that felt equal parts confession and dare. Fans didn't need long to connect the dots. The minute Demet stepped through the airport sliding doors and, with that knowing smile, called what's happening very new, the narrative bent toward one name, Kenyaman. Those who followed Demet know she guards her privacy until the moment she decides not to. The woman who shines on screen has learned to choose her reveals carefully. Even so, this sequence, the song, the timing, the airport line, felt intentional. And because their history with each other has always been combustible, people couldn't help but read it as a sign that the flame might be catching again. It's impossible to tell this story without acknowledging the winding, passionate path that connects Demet and Can. Their names have danced in the same headline more times than we can count, sometimes because of work, sometimes because of whispers, and sometimes because the shared glances said more than any interview ever could. They've been linked, unlinked, and linked again in the public imagination. What's new now is the tone of Demet's voice and the way the song she shared seems to sit exactly where old tenderness meets new caution. Not long ago, Demet turned 32 and, in a startlingly honest moment, told reporters who asked whether there was someone in her life, "I feel very alone, there is no one." That vulnerability exploded across social platforms. It was the kind of sentence that tastes like truth, the kind that lingers. Fans praised her candor, while commentators wondered what lay beneath it. Was it the aftermath of a relationship that had asked too much? Was it a woman pushing everything aside for her craft? Or was it simply a season of quiet, a woman reclaiming herself before she let anyone else in? There were signs that Demet was leaning into growth. Sources in the industry said she had rented a place in London, the kind of city where anonymity is a luxury, and enrolled in language courses to sharpen her English. That decision felt strategic and personal. It whispered, new projects, broader horizons, and a reset that goes deeper than the surface. It also smelled like space from familiar streets, familiar voices, and familiar emotions. Sometimes you leave the city to figure out which threads still pull you back. Then came the twist. The first contact, as gossip insiders love to call it, wasn't a dramatic dinner or a shadowy late-night exit. It was a chance crossing at the airport. Eyes widened, phones lifted, and suddenly there were murmurs about Demet and Can standing close enough for the air to change temperature. A hello that lasted a beat too long. A glance that didn't run away. Within hours, posts multiplied and the question morphed from "Are they talking?" into "Is this happening again?" What followed was the clip everyone's replaying, Demet, poised and cordial, fielding questions. When asked about what people were whispering, she gave a line that was both small and seismic, "It's very new, such a new situation." That was it. No names, no definitions. And yet it sounded like a door being cracked open just wide enough for hope to fit through. Because the moment you admit something is new, you're also admitting there's movement. And movement is all fans need to imagine the rest. Of course, threads from the past never stay quiet for long. Industry chatter has often framed Demet and Can splits, yes, plural, in the language of trust. Not accusations, but atmospheres. Not drama, but little doubts that stack up into distance. Journalist Muge Dagestanley has emphasized that trust can be the word that empties a room, the quiet explanation behind big decisions. Burson Altuntas has echoed how delicate that terrain can be for two people living inside a spotlight. The suggestion has never been a scandal, only the recognition that love under public lights burns faster and requires a steadier hand than most. And then there was the song. Demet's story carried a track that felt like it was chosen with surgical precision. She didn't need to quote the hook everyone knows, the mood did the talking. The theme was unmistakable. A bruised heart confronting a truth it had sidestepped, a plea to stop before falling again, and a confession that holding on alone is its own kind of breaking. Fans remember the title, Dirter Benny, and they remember the ache. Within minutes, comments filled with interpretations. Is this her way of calling out the past, or her way of saying she might try again but with eyes open? Was she telling him she won't carry it by herself this time? Or was she closing the loop by giving the story its soundtrack? The camps formed fast, as they always do online. One side swore Demet was sending a coded note to Can, a bittersweet reminder that the old wounds are known and named. Another group argued this was not a message at all, merely a woman giving language to a universal feeling. Twitter flashed hot with opinions. Instagram Reels stitched timelines together like detectives. TikTok edits lined up airport footage with lines from the song, fusing reality with imagination until it was hard to tell which came first, the lyric or the look. Through all of it, what stood out most was how careful Demet's moves felt. If this is a rekindling, it is one drawing its boundaries in pencil first. The fans noticed. They remembered how quickly emotions can sprint, and they read caution in the way she let the song speak for her. They saw strategy in the airport line that promised nothing and everything at once. And they heard something softer too, the hint that when familiar hands reach for each other again, they do it knowing where the rough edges used to be. Industry insiders, who always claim they saw it coming, say the proximity between Demet and Can doesn't feel forced, it feels inevitable. Two people whose chemistry never quite evaporated, now orbiting again after time apart. The London chapter reads like a prelude to this moment, a season where Demet worked on herself, stretched her world, and learned how to protect her heart in rooms that don't ask nicely. If anything, that move strengthened the idea that she's calling the shots now, in love and in work. Demet's career, by the way, remains a metronome beating steadily behind the noise. Set life, scripts, negotiations, she's not stepping away from any of it. If anything, she's balancing it with an elegance that only arrives after you've learned what happens when you don't. A possible return to old feelings doesn't look like a surrender, it looks like a woman setting terms. That impression has drawn praise from fans who want her happiness and her triumphs to share the same stage, finally, without stepping on each other's lines. As for Can, his name isn't just a headline, it's an atmosphere. A presence that shifts the temperature of any room he enters. The idea that Demet's post nodded in his direction sent his fans rushing to timelines too. Some read it as an olive branch. Others read it as closure, a full circle that ends where it started, with a song and the awareness that history is heavy. But what no one can deny is that when their names touch in a sentence, the sentence gets louder. The comment sections became their own late-night talk shows. She's telling Can she won't fall the same way again, one user wrote, pairing the thought with a clip from a red carpet moment they once shared. Or she's saying start over but slower, another countered, adding a screen grab of that airport smile. A quieter subset of fans pointed to Demet's decision to study, to build, to invest in herself, and said that whatever this is, it will unfold on her timeline, not anyone else's. There's a narrative forming that this is the era of cautious beginnings. That even if the song mourns the weight of yesterday, the present is being built with careful hands. Those close to the scene whisper that Demet and Can are keeping their circle small, refusing to give the story away before it knows what it is. The airport moment felt like a promise to reveal just enough to end the speculation without feeding it too much. If so, it worked. Curiosity is ravenous, but patience has become unexpectedly stylish. Meanwhile, the press can't resist revisiting the chapter where things fell apart. They do it because it answers the question that lurks whenever two people consider a second chance: what's changed? Reports sketch out a haze of miscommunications and moments when trust wobbled, never turning accusatory but never pretending the past was painless. That version of events has been debated on panels, in columns, and under live streams where everyone thinks they know the one detail that matters most. Yet the only voices that matter, theirs, have said just enough to make it clear that the lessons were learned in private. So where does this story go next? Watch the calendar. The appearances they choose, the rooms they enter together or apart, the captions they write and the ones they leave blank, those will be the breadcrumbs. If they're seen at an event in the coming days, people will dissect posture, proximity, and whether a hand lingers at the small of a back. If a new project is announced, the timeline will question whether art is going to orchestrate their reunions once again. For now, here's what is solid. Demet's social media compass is pointing somewhere intentional. The song selection wasn't a fluke. The airport words were chosen. The energy has shifted, and everyone can feel it. Whether this translates into a full rekindling or a graceful farewell that honors what was, we're witnessing a script they're writing in real time, and no one is more invested than the people who watched that chemistry spark the first time around. And let's not ignore the fact that the entertainment world loves a love story that refuses to stay simple. The image of Demet, steady and luminous, choosing herself and her growth, then stepping into a very new moment with a man who has been both a co-star and a chapter of her private life, that's the kind of arc that keeps tabloids in business and fans awake past midnight. It's also the kind of arc that can either heal old fractures or expose them. That uncertainty is the hook, the cliffhanger, the reason we're still talking. Inevitably, the question returns to that song. Was it a message for Kenyaman? Or was it a mirror Demet held up to her own heart to make sure it was still whole? Maybe it was both. Maybe that's why the story gripped so fiercely, because people recognized themselves in it. The urge to rush back and the wisdom to slow down. The temptation to repeat and the courage to rewrite. If this is a rekindling, it's one emerging under different rules. The whispers suggest boundaries instead of fireworks, clarity instead of spectacle. A love that has learned to ask, what do we need to protect this time, rather than, how fast can we run? The notion resonates especially among those who have followed Demet's London chapter, who watched her build fluency in new words and, perhaps, in new ways of saying yes and no. On social media, the montage continues. Edits put side by side the airport footage and earlier interviews, the soft smile she wore this week and the one she wore years ago. The timeline loves symmetry, and it's finding it. At the same time, a countercurrent insists on leaving space for another outcome, a friendship redefined, a mutual respect preserved, a choice to keep the past a finished painting and admire it without repainting it. Both readings sit comfortably under that single phrase, it's very new. It buys time. It creates a breathing room where the story can decide what it wants to be. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain. Demet Özdemir and Kenyaman know the language of attention. They understand the current they create when they step into the same frame. And they appear to be steering it rather than being swept by it. If Demet's song was a note slipped under a door, it was signed with careful intent. If it was a chapter marker, it promises that the next pages won't repeat themselves blindly. So tell us, was that late-night post a love letter to yesterday or a boundary for tomorrow? Is the airport confession the first step back towards something familiar, or the careful naming of a brand new path? Keep your notifications on here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, because as soon as the next clue drops, an appearance, a caption, a look, we'll be right here, reading between the lines and piecing together the puzzle of Demet and Can's unfolding story. What do you think? Was the song a whisper to Kenyaman, or simply Demet Özdemir's way of putting her heart into words without naming names? Share your thoughts in the comments, tap like if you're as intrigued as we are, and subscribe for the latest twists before they hit the trending page. The next chapter is coming. We'll watch it together.